A single empire in Europe would eventually take control of nearly a quarter of the planet's land and population, an empire so vast that the sun was said to never set upon it. The foundations of this global power began on the small island of England, where a powerful monarchy ignited an extraordinary story of exploration, ambition, and world domination. The British Empire witnessed some of humanity's greatest achievements and triumphs, but it also revealed the darkest sides of human history. After the discovery of America around 500 years ago, the English began venturing far beyond their shores, sailing into vast and dangerous oceans. They would encounter unknown civilizations, forge historic alliances, and create bitter rivalries. Within just 4 centuries, this empire would be worth more than $600 billion. But how did an empire that once controlled territories across the Americas, Asia, Africa, and even Australia eventually collapse? To understand that, we must start at the very beginning. Long before people even knew about distant continents, a man named King Alfred the Great struggled to defend his small Anglo-Saxon kingdom. England at the time was under constant threat from the invading Danish Vikings. In the year 878 AD, Viking forces led by Guthrum launched a massive invasion. Alfred was forced to retreat into the marshlands of Somerset, seeking refuge on the small island of Athelney. But this retreat was not surrender, it was preparation. During his time in hiding, Alfred regrouped and gathered loyal followers. Soon he formed a powerful army. At the Battle of Edington, Alfred launched a decisive attack and defeated Guthrum. The victory forced the Vikings to sign the Treaty of Wedmore, which created a region known as the Danelaw. This agreement recognized Viking rule in parts of England, but also secured peace between the Vikings and the Anglo-Saxons. It was the first step toward unifying England. That process would later be completed by Alfred's grandson, Aethelstan. In 924, Aethelstan became king of Wessex. His rule faced opposition from Viking-controlled regions such as Northumbria and Mercia. But Aethelstan proved to be a determined and capable leader. By 927 AD, he successfully conquered Northumbria and united the English kingdoms under one rule. For this achievement, Aethelstan became known as the first king of England. 200 years later, England began looking beyond its borders. King Henry II sought to expand his power across the Irish Sea. In the spring of 1171, Henry sailed from England to Waterford, Ireland, accompanied by knights and soldiers. Upon arrival, he demanded submission from the Irish kings and chieftains. Henry believed Ireland should recognize his authority. When Irish bishops and clergy met at the Synod of Cashel, they acknowledged Henry II as the ruler of Ireland. This moment effectively made Ireland the first colony of England. At the time, no one could have imagined that England would one day become a global empire. Another century later, England turned its attention toward Wales. In 1277, King Edward I launched a campaign to bring Wales under English control. The conflict began with the First Welsh War. Edward's forces invaded Gwynedd, the stronghold of Welsh resistance in North Wales. Despite fierce resistance, the Welsh ruler Prince Llewellyn was forced to submit. Edward knew that military victory alone would not guarantee control, so he ordered the construction of massive stone fortresses across Wales. These castles were meant to maintain English dominance and prevent future rebellions. But Welsh resistance continued. In 1282, a second conflict erupted, the Second Welsh War. After intense fighting, Welsh resistance was finally crushed. Wales was officially incorporated into the English kingdom. Yet England's struggles were far from over. From 1337 to 1453, England fought France in the devastating 100 Years' War. The conflict drained both nations of resources and kept England focused on survival rather than expansion. Then, almost immediately afterwards, England descended into another internal conflict. This was the famous War of the Roses, fought between the House of Lancaster and the House of York. The war lasted from 1455 to 1487. Eventually, the Lancastrians emerged victorious, and King Henry VI was declared king. But while England fought its own wars, the rest of the world was beginning to open up. In 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed across the Atlantic Ocean and landed in the Bahamas. His voyages revealed an enormous new continent to Europe. This discovery sparked a global race for exploration and colonization. England did not want to be left behind. When an Italian explorer named Giovanni Caboto approached King Henry VII with a proposal to explore this new land and find a route to Asia, the king approved the mission. Caboto anglicized his name to John Cabot. In May 1997, he set sail from Bristol, England, aboard a small ship called the Matthew, with a crew of just 18 men. After weeks of dangerous sailing across the Atlantic, they finally spotted land on June 24, 1997. Cabot had reached the eastern coast of North America. The region would later be called Newfoundland, literally meaning new found land. Cabot encountered indigenous peoples who had lived in the region for thousands of years. He claimed the land for England, planting the English flag along the shore. His discovery gave England hope of competing with Spain and Portugal in the global trade markets. But this was only the beginning. Back in England, a king named Henry VIII was dealing with a crisis of his own. Henry desperately wanted a male heir to secure his dynasty. But his marriage to Catherine of Aragon produced only one surviving child, Princess Mary. Convinced that his marriage was cursed in the eyes of God, Henry asked the Pope to annul the marriage. The Pope refused. Frustrated and determined, Henry made a decision that would forever change England. In 1334, the English Parliament passed the Act of Supremacy, breaking away from the Roman Catholic Church. The Church of England was born, and the king himself became its spiritual leader. This moment would shape the future of England, and eventually the future of an empire. Because soon, England would begin looking beyond Europe toward a new world and the beginning of the British Empire.